We are one of the independent groups from across the nation who stand together as the Family Policy Alliance, years ago known as Focus on the Family Action. And we stand for a place where life is cherished, where religious freedom flourishes, and where families thrive. And this weekend it's been a joy for Wyoming Family Alliance to join with fellow conservatives from across Colorado and the West to lift up once again the common sense truths our fathers built this nation on. And as we gather, I want to pose two questions for you tonight. I want you to ask yourself the question, why are you here? And then the deeper question is this as well. Why is it important for conservatives to gather together? I believe that we've gathered here because we desperately love our country. And you cannot love this country without feeling a tremendous sense of unrest. And we as conservatives understand this unrest is exactly what happens when the freedoms we hold so dear, because they're stamped into our very beings, into our natures, when they're infringed upon. That sense of unrest is felt in a nation because some in this country have been using the institutions of a free society to destroy the foundations of freedom and then tell us all the time that it is our fault. For instance, they declare conservatives to be contentious even as they have been contending that the very idea of reality, that there are real things, is an old and outmoded idea. One example would be, we declare men to be men and women to be women based upon reality. They call that hatred. Nothing could be further from the truth. I have never met a real conservative filled with hate. I've met many conservatives filled with love for all that is good and true and beautiful in the world. But to love in that way, one must actually believe the truth that real things really exist. And if truth exists, it is worth standing for. That's why we're here, to stand for these great truths that matter for the life of this country, and because this country is so important to the world, for the life of the world. And tonight we meet as a group of thoughtful, intellectually muscular conservatives who are willing to stand against the leftist tide and conserve the great dream of America and set it again as a shining light on the highest hill. And this is not the first time conservatives on this continent have had to stand against adversity. This country was founded under such circumstances. In 1773, a group of men met and they were discussing how a distant parliament and king were removing the freedoms they had been given from their lives. They felt that they were forced to surrender more and more of those freedoms that had been guaranteed to them in the English Bill of Rights of 1689. They objected because they had built a well-run system of near independent rule. And now the leaders of the nation across the ocean, instead of treating them as citizens, began to treat them as subjects. And so, with the Stamp Act, the Townsend Revenue Act, the Declaratory Act, and finally the Tea Act, they believed that their rights as Englishmen, because they had been violated by king and parliament, something needed to happen. And so on December the 16th of 1773, 84 years after the signing of the English Bill of Rights, they decided they would have a costume party at the king's expense. And down they went to Boston Harbor. They went down to dump some tea, but more or less to make some noise that they hoped would be heard across the ocean. And I would say they were heard. Their voice resonates in this room tonight because we are fellow conservatives. We're not here to dump tea, metaphorically or in any other way, but we are here to signal to the world that because of our love for true freedom, we as conservatives will never give up the hard-won liberties we have inherited. We will conserve them for future generations. Today, the struggle isn't with a king, but with some in a culture who would turn us Marxist. Today, we've come to a generation who hold our hard-won rights lightly. Today, there is a tyranny of ideas that are antithetical to the American promise. Today, people have been taught to expect more from government than from the very rights they've inherited. Today, people are being separated by their competing grievances rather than the freedom that should unite us. And today, it seems as though freedom has been redefined as the absence of morals, as if it is personal anarchy that defines freedom. And for many years, that struggle happened on the coast, and we were just considered flyover country. But Colorado is exhibit A of how that is no longer true. And sadly, some of the same forces that assaulted you starting around 2004 in Colorado have set their eyes on Wyoming. But I'm here to announce to our friends in Colorado tonight, we in Wyoming are not going to go down. Amen. We in Wyoming have dedicated ourselves to being Wyoming strong. And to do that, we need a Colorado that is Colorado strong once again. Amen. We need a Montana that is Montana strong. We need a North and South Dakota that's Dakota strong. We need a Utah strong and a Idaho strong and a Nevada strong. And then linking arms together as Western states, we can be Western strong. Now, the true conservative must first know what they are conserving, and here are some foundational rights. The foundational right of every person to live in or out of the womb must be conserved. The hard-won liberty to a free mind and a free conscience must never be driven from the bakeries of any state, especially a Western state. We must have freedom of the mind. We must conserve the right of families to exist without the meddling of government. We will be Western strong if we are family strong. And we need to link arms and conserve those ideas. 2.5 centuries ago, a hero of mine, a great thinker that was one of the great thinkers that led to the American Revolution, Thomas Reed, the chair of moral philosophy at Glasgow University, made this statement. He said that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. We all know it to be true. It's common sense. Yet in his philosophy and in that statement lies a question. Every generation forges a link from the past to the future. And in the long chain of history that ties all Americans together, the question is this: will this be the generation whose link fails? Each generation has only the opportunity to forge one link in the long chain of history. We must forge ours and forge it well. We must connect the truths that have made us strong to the next generation. What our fathers and mothers fought for must be conserved for our children. We must forge a strong link. And I pledge to you with all that is in me, we in Wyoming will forge a Wyoming strong link. We will link arms with you and forge a link that is Western strong. And ultimately, we will conserve an America that is strong for future generations. And it will all start right here, because we are Western strong. God bless you. God bless these United States of America. Thank you so much.